Let me grab you a towel.
But I don't want to be a
secondary character.
Hello, Ivan.
Hello, Stephen.
And hello to you, our listeners. Welcome to another week of But I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character. We're a Melbourne podcast, and every week we take an episode of Seinfeld at random and examine the secondary characters from it. And this week we're doing a Season 8 episode, The Pothole.
Holy cow. Season 8 episode. Yeah, Season 8, episode 16, and an episode that I enjoyed very much.
Yeah, no, I really liked this episode. I didn't remember a lot of it, and I enjoyed it. It kind of, in a way, felt like watching a new episode, or an episode that I hadn't seen in ages. So, yeah, very, very funny, and looking forward to talking about the secondary characters.
Indeed, and actually, funnily enough, the director, Andy Ackerman, he actually won an Emmy for directing for this episode.
Yeah, no, I noticed that. We'll talk a bit about that in the trivia a bit later on. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at bidwabaspodcast@gmail.com. You can say hello on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. You can listen to all of our previous episodes on your podcast app of choice. And if you want to be so kind as to rate us or review us, that would be amazing. And you can support us financially as well.
That's right. We are on Patreon and PayPal. And on Patreon, you do get this episode earlier than everyone else, as well as access to our exclusive podcasts, Season 11 and Curbcast.
That's right. And finally, if you want to join our Facebook group, Seinfeldisms, it is the biggest Seinfeld group on Facebook by far. We're growing exponentially at this point. I was using the word rapidly on previous podcasts, but now I think it's safe to say exponentially, which is amazing. Just type Seinfeldisms into Facebook and you'll find the group. And we've got all sorts of stuff coming up, none of which I can announce as of yet. But join the page and keep an eye on it. And yeah, get as excited as we are about it.
Fair enough. Yes, I know it's really big and it's very exciting.
Indeed. Every week we talk about real-life Seinfeldisms. That is anything that's happened in our previous week in our lives that we can attribute back to Seinfeld in any way. Have you got any this week, Ivan?
Well, because we're still in lockdown in Melbourne, nothing more Seinfeld-related has come up, unfortunately. But actually, there was one thing. I put up a thing on the Seinfeldisms Facebook page where I downloaded the new Tony Hawk's game, the skateboarding game, and I made a creator skater, and the limit, because I love creating like characters and stuff, and you know the created character things on games, the customization options are pretty limited in this game, but I tried to make a Cosmo Kramer skateboarder, so I gave him like a button shirt and brown pants and brown shoes, and gave him some wild hair, but his face I couldn't quite get right. I put it on Seinfeldisms, and people were saying he looks more like a young David Lynch than a Cosmo Kramer, so if you go on Seinfeldisms and check me out, you'll see my post. But it wasn't the best one that I've ever done, because I've done Seinfeld characters on other video games before. Like I've made them almost exactly like Jerry and Elaine and George and stuff. So I love doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, hopefully there's an update, and Tony Hawk's, you'll be able to customize it even more, and I'll make a real life Kramer skateboarder.
Yeah, you need more options to make people with a horse face.
Yeah, man with the face.
That's
horse
Jerry,
face.
isn't it?
Jerry's got, no, I think Kramer's got the horse face too, I think.
Okay, yeah. So if anyone who works at the company that makes Tony Hawk's is listening, add that to your options for creating avatars. Horse faces.
Or the ability to like change the shapes of noses and mouths and the sizes and stuff, you know? And then I'll make like a Michael Richards likeness.
Yes, that's obviously your most important task when creating a new game. Making us, making the ability for us to create Seinfeld avatars easier.
That's right.
So I have two Seinfeldisms this week. Cool. One is very typical. I think I've had one every week for the last, since we've been in lockdown. There was mention of Seinfeld on a podcast. This one was actually in Talking Sopranos, which is, I know you're a fan of as well, Ivan.
Yeah.
Every week, two actors from The Sopranos, Michael Imperioli and I think Stephen Schreiber is how you say his name.
Stephen Schreiber. Yep.
Yeah, they are doing an episode-by-episode review of The Sopranos. Total fanboy of The Sopranos. Amazing podcast. And it's awesome that two key actors from the show are talking about it. Yeah, and they mentioned Seinfeld. I think there was some reference to New York or something like that. I can't remember. But yeah, obviously a welcome Seinfeldism. And my second Seinfeldism is I was walking the other day through my neighborhood on my way to get a coffee, and I noticed that there was a car with a business name on it. And at first I didn't notice it, but my partner Kaylee, who I was walking with, pointed out that the business name on the car was Cosmos Painters. So another little business under the Cremerica Industries banner.
Lovely. And that's your name on Squadcast, the thing that we're recording on at the moment. You put it as Cosmo.
Yeah. Once lockdown is over, I'm going to knock on the door of the car owner and offer myself as a painter.
Well, maybe you might be able to adopt a part of the highway and maintain it.
True. Adopt a quiet suburban Melbourne street.
That's right.
Hopefully no...
The 40K limit.
Yeah. Hopefully no sewing machines.
Once, twice, 3 times a lady.
Okay, Seinfeld news for the week. Bit of a slow week this week. Only one news item to report. Through the week, Jason Alexander appeared at the annual JNF, which is the Jewish National Fund. They're a worldwide non-profit organization helping to preserve Jewish culture and promote Jewish friendship throughout the world. He appeared at their virtual Australian gala. It was a bit tricky for me to actually view his contribution to the event. I did have to pretend I was Jewish, which
You did a Watley.
Yeah, I did.
You converted for the jokes.
Just for the jokes. Well, in this case, I converted just for the Jason, which I think, is perfectly fine. But I had to answer a few Jewish questions to, I guess, prove my my Jewishness. But
Just a stickle of fluoride.
Luckily, Wikipedia was there for me to get the answers to that. And I was a clandestine member of the JNF, and I got an invite, and I did check out the gala, and I sat through a lot of talkers and panelists and stuff that had no relevance to me because I'm not Jewish, but it was all worth it once I got to Jason Alexander. He did like a 15 to 20 minute kind of scripted bit, making a lot of jokes about how he didn't know that there were Jews in Australia, but it makes sense because Australia is just one big desert and Jewish people always just seem to end up in the desert. Yeah, and he talked a lot about, the current state of the world and how things like the JNF to promote, culture and, I guess, intercultural friendships and allyships is really, really important, and how he's proud to stand with the organization, but also the Australian branch of it. It was really nice. It was really heartwarming, really sweet. And it had the typical Jason Alexander charm. He sang a bit. He did a few kind of George skits-ish. He didn't lean too much into the Seinfeld stuff.
He's had enough of that, I think.
Yeah, a really, really charming, really, really awesome bit. It might actually be on YouTube. Don't quote me on that. But if you're curious, just type in JNF Australia, Jason Alexander, and if it's up there, it will come up, and it's worth a watch. It's really, really, really cool. And
so Seinfeld news for the JNF gala and a Seinfeldism for you for doing a Watley.
Yes, that's true, actually.
There you go.
An unintended and accidental Seinfeldism. Yeah, and that's all the Seinfeld news for the week.
Very good, buddy. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're talking about some secondary characters from Season 8's The Pothole.
Hello, folks. Matt McCoy here, a.k.a. Lloyd Braun from Seinfeld, and I'm telling you right now, I do not want to be a secondary character.
Season 8, Episode 16 was The Pothole, and that one first aired in the US on February 20th, 1997, directed by Andy Ackerman, written by Steve O'Donnell and Dan O'Keefe. In this episode, germaphobe Jerry accidentally knocks his girlfriend's toothbrush into her toilet, Jenna, played by Kristen Davis, and after retrieving it, she uses it before he can stop her. He tries to overcome his revulsion while making up excuses not to kiss her. Kramer adopts a section of highway and tries to improve it. When a Chinese restaurant won't deliver to her address, Elaine tries to get the food delivered by using a janitor's closet in a different building. George drops his keys in a pothole, which gets filled, and he tries to get out. And other secondary characters are Soraya Coral. She plays Mrs. Allister, the super in the building that Elaine is the janitor for. Radma Agana Zhao plays the delivery guy. George Chung plays the Chinese restaurant owner. And Jack McGee plays Ralph, the head road maintenance guy who does a bit of mocking with George when he snorts.
Yeah.
It's It's about money, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
a simple insult to put George in his place. I like it.
I love it. I love how he's just trying to be so nice to them, and they're just like typical rough, New York, blue collar workers.
Yeah,
they're like, we're not taking any shit.
They haven't got any time for insincere pleasantries. They just want to do the work and get paid.
That's it. they talk them down to $50, but George has to do the labor.
Oh, classic George.
Classic. Yeah, he gets talked down. But anyway, a bit of trivia about the episode, my friend. Jerry, he appeared on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno the night before the episode aired, and he declared the Pothole to be one of the best episodes of the series. And I think I might have to agree with him.
Yeah, it's a great episode, an underrated episode. I wouldn't say it's like, a top tenner or an all-timer, but definitely one of those episodes that never really gets talked about all that often, but yeah, underrated for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you have, brother?
So the name of the highway that Kramer adopts a mile of is called the Arthur Burghardt Expressway. Obviously, that's a fictional highway in America, but it was actually named after an actor who, according to the DVD commentary, had been called into audition for the series several times for several different roles. However, some of the members of Seinfeld's team actually liked his performances.
Awesome. So he did end up getting a bit of recognition then.
Yeah, I guess that's the next best thing. If you can't be cast, then you may as well be used to name a highway.
Yeah. And speaking of auditions, man, so Kristen Davis, she plays Jenna in the episode, and she's also in The Butter Shave, which we've done a few weeks ago. She originally auditioned for the part of Sister Roberta in season 5's The Conversion.
Okay. Yep.
She would have been an interesting Sister Roberta. She has that very innocent kind of look.
Yeah, I could see her playing Sister Roberta for sure. The line at the episode, and I would at the end of the episode, and I would probably say that it's like the most classic line in the episode where Newman is burning alive, really.
Basically.
In his mail truck, and he cries out, "Oh, the humanity!" That's actually a reference to a famous news broadcast from when the Hindenburg crashed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the helium balloon that was meant to be the next frontier for air travel, and that didn't work out too well.
No.
I think what was it? No, not helium. I said helium. So that'd be funny if it was helium.
Yeah.
They don't talk like this. Oh, the humanity.
I don't know what the Hindenburg was filled in. If you're a chemist,
it was hydrogen, wasn't it?
Hydrogen? Yeah, maybe.
I think it was something flammable like that. Yeah.
If you're a chemical engineer or a air travel specialist, let us know. I'd be interested to find out.
Or if you were on the Hindenburg and survived and you're still around, let us know.
I guess you could say the Hindenburg is the Andrea Doria of air travel.
Yeah. All those poor souls.
Yes, all those poor souls. The final bit of trivia I have is that we learn in this episode that Elaine actually lives on the south side of West 86th Street. I don't think her address...
That's right.
Her current address, as of this episode, hadn't been referenced up until this point.
That's right. Yes, she lives on the opposite side of the boundary where the delivery can occur.
For China Panda, yes.
China Panda, yes.
Yes. Do you have any other trivia?
No, that's it, buddy. Shall we just jump straight in?
Sounds
straight
good.
Into the pothole to get our Phil Rizzuto keys?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's talk about Jenna. So she's played by, as I mentioned before, Kristen Davis. She's most famous for playing the character Charlotte York in the TV show Sex and the City and its subsequent films. She's also known for the character Brooke in Melrose Place. She's also appeared in TV shows such as Bad Teacher and Will and Grace. And like I mentioned just before, this is her first appearance on the show, and she appears for the second and final time in the season 9 premiere The Butter Shave as Kenny Banya's love interest. So Jenna, I think she seems like a pretty down-to-earth girl, and she's got a bit of a, she's got a bit of a sense of humor about her as well. Like, she's frustrated that Jerry dropped the toothbrush in the toilet and didn't tell her. Of course, if that happened and your significant other didn't tell you, you'd be pretty frustrated. But I think she's got like a good sense of humor though. Like, she knows that Jerry is like a germaphobe, probably bordering on a disorder like Elaine described.
Sure.
So Jenna probably is aware of Jerry's affliction of sorts, and she decides to drop something in the toilet, but she's not quite villainous or malevolent. She just puts a toilet brush in there, something you actually put in the toilet.
No, she's just sort of just messing with him, just playing a bit of a mind game. Yeah, but it's not malicious or evil. And look, Jerry gets away with so much bad behavior that someone giving it back to him on occasion is kind of warranted. So I do like her for that, for not really putting up with Jerry's bullshit. She gets her own back in a way, which I appreciate. Yeah, look, I think she's like one, in terms of like germaphobe rating, I would say she's like one level below Jerry.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she...
Okay.
Yeah, look, I don't think she would be as off-put put off put. That's not a word. I don't think she would be as put off by. She would probably want Jerry to brush his teeth if she accidentally knocked his toothbrush in the loo. But I think she'd be satisfied with a good teeth brushing and a good mouth washing, and then she'd be perfectly okay. But you look at her apartment, and even Jerry describes her as very neat and fastidious. The only acceptable word in George's list when he's trying to describe Jerry.
Yeah, I'll take fastidious.
Yeah, finicky, something else, fastidious. And he goes, I'll take fastidious. So, yeah, look, I think she's very neat, very organized, but I don't think she's as uptight as Jerry.
Oh, certainly not.
In terms of personal hygiene. And look, I don't think it's unreasonable to want someone to brush their teeth and wash their mouth out if they were using a toothbrush that had been in the loo, even if it was for a few seconds. I don't think it's an unreasonable position, but anything beyond mouthwash or a toothbrush in terms of refusing to kiss, I think, is a bit over the top.
And it's very sneaky that Jerry puts a bit of bleach in the plaques. Did you notice? Because he asked George in an earlier scene, does bleach, are you able to swallow bleach? And George says, it gives you a bit of a sore throat or something. And then Jenna says that the plaques taste a bit like bleach, and Jerry's pretending he's unaware. So he's actually put some bleach in the mouthwash. Jesus, that's dangerous.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that. Dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, bleach is not a chemical you want to mess around with. Even in small quantities, it's potentially dangerous. So, yeah, Jerry's, being a bit irresponsible there.
I think so.
Yeah, and look, I think part of her mind game as well, or the reason she decides to get revenge on Jerry, is not just because of because of him withholding the toothbrush incident from her, but also maybe she was a bit offended when he very obviously made up that he was a bit sick, when he justified not kissing her. It was very transparent. All of a sudden, he's just like, I'm a bit sick and I don't want to pass it on to you. And you look at her and she's kind of like, all right, whatever. She's just a bit miffed. So I think that contributed to her wanting to, kind of get back at Jerry. And then the withholding of the toilet incident kind of solidified that annoyance.
Yeah. Do you think that because the episode cuts to them, it opens up with them in her apartment and Jerry's brushing his teeth. You think they would have had relations by then? Because I was under the impression that maybe it was the first time that they were going to kiss, but I figured they've probably already been together a couple of times beforehand, and she'd probably just want a subsequent kiss and Jerry won't give it to her.
Yeah, look, I would assume that if she's happy to have him over and, brushing of teeth kind of implies that he stayed the night. So, yeah, I think the fact that they seem very comfortable around each other when the episode starts and that he is brushing his teeth implies that, they've been intimate. So that's, again, probably why she was miffed at, she was trying to figure out why all of a sudden he came down with a very transparently fake sickness as an excuse not to kiss her. Yeah. One thought that occurred to me about Jenna is that maybe she's got a slight hippie-ish tendency, maybe. Like not a full-blown hippie, but just, like little wisps of hippiness.
How so?
The reason being is that she uses baking soda flavored toothpaste. Baking soda is commonly used in like more natural products. It's seen as like a less chemically harsh cleaning product. It's more of a natural or safer household cleaner. And in this case, teeth cleaner. And also around her apartment, she's got a lot of kind of like weird, I would say like fairly eccentric kind of art. And I don't know, it just reminded me of like hippie-ish, not total hippie, but just like a few little hippie-ish tendencies. Maybe she just has a few more natural products than most people, or, maybe she does a bit of meditation or yoga. Just, those like faint wisps of hippiness that some people have.
So she's very liberal and she goes on the hippie side.
Yeah, look, I don't think she leans too much into the hippiness. I think it's just like a tinge, and that's it. Only goes as far as like a few more natural products and a bit of weird art and maybe a bit of yoga or meditation or something like that.
Fair enough. Well, you mentioned that she's a couple of maybe one or two rungs down from Jerry in regards to germophobia. What do you think happened to her after the toilet water splashed all over her after the George incident? Oh, do you think she maybe had a bath for like 5 hours? Or she was in the shower for like half a day? Oh, yeah. Trying to get scrubbed all off?
That would require a good physical and I think mental scrubbing. That would be very traumatic. I think you need to seek some therapy to sort of to get past that for sure.
And you can see Jerry. Sorry, I was going to say, Steve, you can see Jerry, and Jerry's like kind of begrudgingly accepting the fact that there might be some dirt, some kind of poor hygiene at times in the relationship. And then he walks in and she's covered in shit water, and he's like, "Oh, I can get out of this one. Have a nice life."
Yeah, even though his girlfriend is covered in shit, he's just seeing the benefit to him in that he's got an easy way out. Classic Jerry. Yeah, classic selfish Jerry. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if for a time after this, Jenna maybe was even more germophobic than Jerry and Putty, but over time with a bit more therapy and, just time itself, I think she would have come back down to the level of germophobia that she had before the being covered in shit water incident.
And then by the time she finished recovering, she met Kenny in the butter shave.
Yeah, exactly. Look, she seemed back to her normal self by the time she met Kenny, but between the shit water incident and Kenny, she probably had to give herself a good physical scrub and a bit of a mental scrub as well.
I think so, especially if that happened to any of us. We'd be pretty upset about that.
And look, once she got to know Kenny and maybe saw his comedy a few times, she probably had to go back to the scrub as well. She was like, oh, what am I doing? I've got to stop dating these terrible comedians.
Why am I so attracted to him? Is this something that's got some kind of pull?
Yeah, I think she would have been put off comedians. Jerry would have gotten her halfway there, but then Kenny would have sealed the deal in terms of her being completely off-put. Why do I keep saying that? Put off by comedians.
Put off by that. But it's funny because in our bonus podcast, season 11, we wrote in the fact that Jenna and Kenny are actually husband and wife in like the later years. So that kind of throws that theory. But that's just hypothetical, of course. But no. Yeah. And so Jenna, she was pretty keen on Jerry and then realized how much of a germaphobe he was. And then, just to kind of stick it to him a little bit for leaving the toothbrush in the toilet or putting it in there without telling her, she decided to play a game. But like I mentioned before, she's not evil enough to throw something non-toilet related in the toilet. Yeah,
look, she seems very kind and very nice, but not so innocent that she doesn't think Jerry's behavior warrants, a slight bit of revenge.
And I think it's great because I think Elaine makes a point where, Jerry finds faults in his women. I like how it's actually Jerry that has all the faults. It's not really Jenna. I mean, Jenna seems all right. Like she seems like a normal person, but it's Jerry that has the faults about being a germaphobe.
Yeah, we commented on that a couple of episodes ago. I can't remember who Jerry's episode girlfriend was, but the one that does all the charity work. What episode was that? Lena. Yeah.
In the Spun. That was last week. Oh, no, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, in that episode, it was a similar dynamic where, she was the I guess, superior
normal
person,
one.
or the less faulted person, and Jerry was the one displaying all the faults. So, yeah, it's a nice repeat of that dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, I think, one season after. So in season 7 and then season 8. So, yeah, it was good that we saw it 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, it only took 8 seasons for the tables to turn very slightly on Jerry's terrible treatment of his girlfriend.
That's right.
All right. Why don't we talk about Mrs. Allister?
Yes, Mrs. Allister, played by Soraya Carroll. She's known for the film Original Gangster. And I assume she is maybe the super for the building because she thinks that Elaine is the janitor and she kind of orders her to go into the garage to clean up all that stuff. I feel like she doesn't really muck around either. I think she just fires anyone willy-nilly she wants. She doesn't really take into account, the janitor's personal issues or any problems they're having. I think she's probably pretty trigger happy when it comes to hiring and firing. Like my guess is because, you probably know who your janitor is, yeah? You'd know your staff and who they are. I think maybe because she's fired so many janitors in the past, maybe she thinks Elaine's the new one and it's like a revolving door.
Yeah, she can't remember who the last janitor was and all it takes is Elaine saying, oh, I'm the janitor. And she's like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I must have hired you the other day. I don't know.
Yeah. I would also assume that maybe before becoming the super, she started out as the janitor because she seems to know a lot about janitorial work.
Oh, okay.
The more nuanced details, and maybe she worked her way up to be superintendent. Maybe she started as a janitor and then she was the only janitor to last, more than a month or two. And then, she eventually stayed there long enough to become the super.
Oh, I've never heard of a janitor becoming a super. That's pretty full on. Unless if she was like living in the apartment and she was doing, maybe they didn't have a full-time janitor and maybe she was doing like that kind of maintenance work as well.
Maybe they, maybe they offered to cut her rent in half if she did the janitorial work while she was living there.
Maybe.
But to me, I don't know if that's like a common line of promotion, a janitor to a super. But to me, it makes
I've never heard that in my life.
No, but we don't really live in buildings that have janitors and supers over here, so it's not really a familiar concept to Australians.
True.
If you're American, is that a thing that could happen? Could someone be a janitor for a building and then eventually take on more responsibility to, more or less run the building? Is that a thing? I'd be interested.
Well, with hard work and determination, the janitor can become the CEO of the company.
Okay, 80s corporate ad.
Slick 80s corporate guy.
Yeah, from NBC.
Yeah, you do a good voice. You do a good impression of that.
With hard work and determination, you can become the CEO of any building you choose.
That's right. Very good.
Look, that's all I had about Mrs. Allister. She was only in a couple of scenes, but yeah, I agree. She runs a very tight ship and tight to the point where people just come and go. And I like your idea that she's very trigger happy when it comes to hiring and firing, so much so that she doesn't even realize realize that Elaine is just pretending to be the janitor.
That's right. Yeah, she has no clue. She's just, or maybe I don't know, maybe she's a super in a couple of buildings, maybe, or maybe she's like a property manager or something. I'm not sure. Or maybe she's like the head landlord of all the apartments. She owns the building or something. I'm not sure. Maybe she owns like 2 or 3 apartment buildings and just goes around, to each one every couple of days to see what's going on. I don't know.
Yeah, well, look, I think her being a super makes sense because I would imagine that a superintendent would manage the building's facilities, but also manage the staff, including janitors that help keep the building going. So, yeah, to me, it makes sense that she's the super if she's giving direct orders to Elaine. All right, why don't we talk about the owner of China Panda?
Yeah, the owner of China Panda, he is played by George Chung. And, he's pretty strict with his delivery. I mean, even though Elaine's across the street and she's just past the boundary, he sticks quite firm because he says that, if I deliver to you, then I've got to deliver to 42nd Street, 52nd Street, Wall Street, Mexico. Where does it end?
I like how he goes like 83rd Street, Mexico, 84th Street. His boundary
Wall Street,
so far as to Mexico, but then it comes back to 84th Street.
He doesn't want to travel further than he needs to, and even if it's across the road, it's too bad.
Given that China Panda obviously has a very good reputation and that their supreme flounder is a highly regarded dish, I think he is just, he's set himself a delivery boundary and he doesn't need to worry about expanding his business because it's one of his dishes is very famous. I think he very obviously lies to Elaine when she's like, "Is this really, the first time that this dish has been served in America?" And he goes, "Yep, first time, whatever." Like he's very dismissive of her. So I think he gets that question all the time, and he just goes on like an autopilot response, and he's just like, "Yep, first time in America. What do you want?" So
what do you want? Yeah,
he doesn't indulge that like, "Oh wow, this is the first time." He's just like, "Yep, whatever. What do you want?"
It's just very, very robotic, very monotonous on the phone.
Yeah, and I think he probably feels that question all the time because of the dish's reputation. And he just seems a bit sick of it.
And I think much like when we talked about Yevgesin, the soup Nazi, way back when, I think we mentioned that the soup Nazi could have the opportunity to expand if he really wanted to. But I think to maintain the quality of the food, I think he just probably wants the one restaurant and he just wants to stick with it. And people just come to flock from everywhere to go do it. And he doesn't want to expand and compromise on the flavors.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Look, I'm going to go out and say it. I think China Panda is the soup Nazis, the soup cafe of Chinese restaurants in New York.
I'd say so.
It's got a cult following. He wants to keep very tight quality controls in terms of where he delivers to, the dishes he has, and it's got that devoted following.
And I think the Chinese restaurant in season 2, that's more of like upmarket Chinese food. You know how you go to like a really nice, white cloth Chinese restaurant and, like the food's really good and the service is impeccable and all the waiters are like in suits and stuff. I think this place is more like your suburban Chinese restaurant, but it's probably like a low to mid-range kind of restaurant, but it's the place that locals go to and it's really good.
Yeah, look, I think it's somewhere between, like you sort of like dirty back alley restaurant and your fine dining. It's just that middle of the road. You could go there for a nice dinner, but it's not somewhere where you would be worried about getting food poisoning either. It's that nice middle ground. I think as well, maybe to like help, create a bit of a brand maybe or a bit of a vibe within the place. I noticed that there were a couple of Hong Kong action posters on the wall behind the owner's desk where he has his phone. So either maybe he's a fan of Hong Kong action posters, or maybe some restaurants like put up certain imagery or certain posters or certain colors to create like a bit of a brand or a bit of a vibe about it. So maybe I would assume that if you saw more of the restaurant, there would be a lot of Hong Kong action posters and paraphernalia around the restaurant.
Maybe he's just a Bruce Lee fan.
Yeah, he could well be. I didn't catch any of the names of the movies because they were kind of obscured, but they were very obviously that 70s and 80s Hong Kong kung fu action film posters.
Which were pretty big back then.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's the owner. Do you have any other notes on him?
No, that's it. I did have a couple of notes on the delivery guy. Do you?
Not really many notes on him, but I guess we can talk about him briefly. He's played by Radma Agana Zhao. Yeah, just a young guy, I think. Yeah, just works there, and even he's aware of the delivery. I think he's probably had people like Elaine try and get food in that building. He probably knows what's up.
Yeah, he seems very onto Elaine from the start. He's immediately sus when she comes out to meet him. He's immediately like, I don't trust you. I'm onto you, sort of thing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe he's the son of the owner.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
The reason being is that he has an American accent, so I'm guessing he's a first-gen
Chinese-American
Chinese-American person. And the owner of the China Panda, he speaks perfect English, but he obviously does have an accent. So I'm guessing he was born and raised in China and he came over, maybe in his teens or 20s or something like that. And I would assume that the delivery guy, being the owner's son, will eventually inherit China Panda once the owner is ready to retire, at a very old age. Once he's willing to give up the reins, which I imagine would take a lot because he runs that tight ship, and I don't think he would have a lot of trust, even in his own son.
Unless they absolutely had to. They'd have to change the name of the Supreme Flounder to Mediocre Flounder or Good Flounder. It wouldn't quite be Supreme.
Yeah, it's fine, Flounder. It's
right. It's fine, Flounder.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I wouldn't order it again, but it's fine.
It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, it used to be much more supreme. That's all I had about him. I just assumed that maybe he was, because the ages were right as well. The owner looks maybe 50, 55, and the delivery guy looks mid 20s, maybe pushing 30.
Yeah.
And given the generational, I guess, wave of immigration that came over after World War II that the owner was most likely part of, it kind of makes sense in that way as well.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to say about him as well is because Elaine speaks to the man in the apartment, and then the man says, "How did you get in here?" And Elaine says, "Oh, the lock, you just jiggle the lock." I think probably what happened was maybe Elaine probably told the delivery guy, just jiggle the lock to get into the building, because, she doesn't have like an intercom or whatever. He was able to get to the front of her, quote unquote, apartment door to drop off the food. So she probably just left instructions saying, just do that and you can come straight in.
No, I would agree with that for sure.
So she got away with it.
Yeah, she did. She got a Supreme Flounder in the end. Her payment, other than paying for the dish, was, a lot of janitorial work.
And dumping rubbish in. Flounder must have been really good. Yeah.
Yeah, if it was worth, not many dishes would convince me to do some free janitorial work just to eat them. I'd rather go without, if I'm perfectly honest. But
Kramer says that they're so good he can eat them out of a dumpster.
That's right. Must be good. Yeah, like I said, I think it's fair to say that the Supreme Flounder is the mulligatawny of Chinese dishes in the local area.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about Ralph, the boss of the Roadworks crew that do work for George after being bargained down to $50.
$50, but George has to supply the labor. He's played by Jack McGee. He's known for the films The Fighter and Basic Instinct. Yeah, I said before, he's a typical New Yorker in tone and demeanor, just rough, doesn't muck around, that kind of stereotypical New York attitude he's got. Yeah. I feel like I feel like him and his maintenance work, because Kramer says he met them on the highway. I'm guessing his company or his firm probably do a lot of like big projects like highways, roads, like big infrastructure things that they work on. And, if you're earning so much money and you're making good money, if you're earning so much doing such big jobs, why would you want to open up a pothole? That's like a little job, You're probably worth like $100 an hour or something or more. And then this job will take you like 10 minutes. It's like, I don't do a little job, especially if you do like big projects. It's like asking someone to do something so minuscule. It's like, dude, no, this literally is not worth my time.
Yeah, for sure. And given that, I'm surprised that even though they didn't have to do any of the labor, I'm surprised that they still accepted $50. It seems low to split amongst, how many was there? 4 or 5 people in his crew? Say $10 each, even with no jackhammering, that seems very low. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe George, for once in his life, actually was a good bargainer in this situation. Not sure.
I feel like the $50, because, George has the jackhammer and the workwear. I think he maybe hired the workwear and the jackhammer, like the equipment. So maybe it was just for hire, the $50,
True.
Yeah, but he had to supply the labor. So parts were the $50. That's my guess.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, actually. I was going to say, I would assume that maybe he does him and his crew do a lot of off the books work like this. Maybe not as small as Potholes, but maybe some like side jobs for cash, to supplement the income that he would earn from the bigger highway jobs.
Yeah. But like I said, even something as small as that, he wouldn't go out of his way to do it. He even looks at George, and George is like, he's thinking, why the hell should I do this? And then George says, is it about money? And he goes, yeah, it is. Yeah,
he seems very comfortable with the idea of doing sort of like off the books cash jobs, outside of the normal jobs that he would be doing for whatever company he works for. So yeah, I would assume that it's a frequent occurrence, but yeah, not projects as small as Potholes. Somewhere in between a highway and a pothole, I think, are his regular off the books jobs.
Yeah, if he had to like construct a bike path, or if he had to like dig up like a big part of the road, maybe, but no, something which wouldn't take too much notice from other people. If it was like a small area no one cared about, like, or whatever. But if he's going to dig up like half the highway without being commissioned to do it, then there'd be some trouble.
Yeah, and look, amongst whatever you call the community of people that Kramer knows, like like the sort of, the fringe dwellers of the world, people that exist in society, but just on the outskirts of the mainstream, I guess you would say. And Kramer seems to know a lot of those people in different, industries and different walks of life. I would assume that Ralph and his crew would be very comfortable amongst those people because Kramer is well aware of the fact that he can get Ralph and his crew to do this sort of like off the books job for cash. And again, I think that demonstrates the fact that he does it a lot. And, amongst people who maybe don't want to do things always through official channels, him and his crew would be well known as a resource for people who want to do these, wouldn't say dodgy, but less official jobs.
Yeah, I think that because Kramer met them at the Adopt a Highway program, doing work on the highway, he probably said, like, my friend's got this project that he probably like over like exacerbated what the project actually is. Yep. And maybe he thought, oh, my friend has like this big thing I need done. You reckon you can help him out? And Ralph's probably thinking, oh, baby, yeah, this will be a good job. Yep. And then they're underwhelmed when they rock up and George says, oh, it's just a pothole. And like, oh, I thought it was something a bit more substantial than that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that for sure.
Kramer oversold the idea.
He did. Do you have any other notes about any of the other secondaries?
Nah, man, that's it.
Yep, that's it. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll find out where the pothole sits in order of the episodes we've reviewed so far, and whether any of this week's secondary characters appear in our top 20 of all time.
Holy cow.
You once, twice, 3 times a lady. What the hell was that? Double bucket.
So, buddy, after 143 mainline episodes that we have reviewed, where does the pothole sit for you?
This episode sits at number 32. I really like this.
Oh, sweet. 39 for me.
Yeah, I think we've already kind of discussed it throughout this episode of the podcast. We feel like it's an underrated episode. Lots of really, really good intertwining storylines. I feel like sometimes when they have 4 storylines, it's hard to make them intersect and coalesce in a satisfying way. But I think they pulled it off in this one. Yeah, just an underrated episode in general.
Yeah, I found it really funny, and I loved how, even though it was like a more of a silly season 8 episode, I feel like the structure of the plot was like really coherent, and I loved how everything wrapped up in the end. It was just kind of like season 4, season 5 Seinfeld, where everything kind of just like wrapped up really nicely. Because you know how season 8 and 9 sometimes it's a bit clunky when all the storylines come together, but I found the plot hole was pretty seamless.
Yeah, no, it was very tight.
It just worked. Yeah, and it was funny.
Very well written. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it definitely does in this one. Really liked it.
Yeah, I really liked it too. I think it was great. Yeah, definitely an underappreciated gem.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Do any of the secondaries appear in your top 20?
No. What about you, buddy?
No, but shout out to the owner, honorable mention to the owner of China Panda. He's a fairly stern, seemingly pretty grumpy old man, and I love those guys. So yeah, shout out to him.
Yes, the lower class or the lower priced Chinese restaurant maitre d'.
That's true.
You don't feel like fancy Chinese. You just want something, after work, just grab it and go.
Yeah.
Here you go.
It's blue collar Chinese, not this high flying white collar stuff.
That's right.
All right, that is another week of But I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character. Thank you so much for listening. You can get in touch with us by emailing bidwabastpodcast@gmail.com. You can say hello on all of our social media. You'll find all those details in the show notes. And obviously, you can listen to all of our previous episodes on your podcast app of choice. And if you want to rate us or review us, that would be amazing. You can support us financially too.
That's right, on Patreon and PayPal. And next week, Stephen, it is a milestone episode for us because this will be our final season 3 episode we've ever done.
Yeah, we've ticked off all of season 1 and all of season 2, now season 3. So it slowly feels like we are coming to a close. We've only got 26, 27 more episodes to review in total. So yeah, another little box ticked off.
Yes, and that'll be the truth from season 3.
Nice. Another underrated episode, I feel.
Mm-hmm. I actually watched that one a couple of weeks ago. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Nice.
I don't like your earrings. You want the truth? You want the truth? There's that the woman dressed in like the Chinese, the gear with the chopsticks.
Yeah.
And George is trying to hide his rage. And he's
papier-mâché? What the hell is papier-mâché?
What the hell is papier-mâché? And she ends up in the psychiatric ward.
Yeah. And Jerry needs his tax done because he's in trouble getting an audit.
I can't wait to talk about her and other characters.
Yeah, no, it should be good. In the meantime, thank you again for listening, and check out our Facebook group, Seinfeldisms, if you want to join the fun and check out a whole bunch of stuff that's coming up. Until next week, I'm Stephen.
I'm Ivan.
And we'll catch you all next week for the truth.
Yes, and nothing but the truth.